Here to talk with you about winning the Agile Sprint by giving them, this wins the title for longest title of the day. Win the Agile Sprint by giving an amazing software demo and gain funding for your projects. It's Heather L. Cole. Give it up for Heather.
Thank you. Yeah, I am live. Well, first, before I get started, I think we need a picture of you guys all celebrating how much awesome information you've gotten today, okay? So here's what I want you to do. I want you to pretend your team just won the Super Bowl. Okay? Ready? On the count of three, you can stand up or whatever, and I'm going to take a picture of y'all, and then we'll tweet it out and everything. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Woo! Oh, come on, you guys can do better than that. There was barely noise. Right? Well, I'm really excited to be part of this. My name is Heather Cole, and I'm an analytic advisor, but what I really think I am is a persuasion expert. How many of you would like to change the world? Really, the rest of you don't want to change the world? You just, everything's good. Okay, well, this is a rough crowd, right? So what I'm going to teach you today is how we do a software demonstration or a presentation. But what I really want to teach you today is how to become more influential. How many of you would like people in the executive world to listen to you more? Right? Come on, big hands on that one, right? We sometimes feel like they just don't get us. And today, I'm going to give you the secret why they don't get you and how you can have more influence. So the reason why this is important is that anybody that's doing technology has to get people to actually use it. Has anyone ever had a problem with end-user adoption? You build it and you're like, seriously? This can change your world. And then they're like, I like Excel. And you're like, really? Come on, guys, right? So I'm going to go through this. At the end of this, I'm going to give you a web address that you can get a free copy of. I'm actually going to put 2 books up there. Right now, I have a book, Business Intelligence Bullseye, but I also just wrote a book called Solving the CIO Identity Crisis, because we all have an identity crisis. But again, I'm going to share with you how you can solve that. So my story, I grew up, believe it or not, I've been in technology for over 30 years. Now, you can look at me and say, wow. Yeah, I actually started when I was 13. My dad had a software company. Did anyone else have a dad that had a software company? Grew up with mainframes. We'll get one, yes, right? Grow up with mainframes in your house. We didn't have to turn on our heat in Chicago in our house. The servers did it for us. My friends would come over and be like, so hot in here. Like, yeah, we're trying to work on that. So I grew up in software. My dad had a software company that was the first to track the futures market on a real-time basis. Like, if you went back in the 80s to the Chicago Board of Trade and looked at the pit, they were, doing the buy-sell. In the back was an IBM PC with my dad's software on it, and it had this exhibit, The Future of Trading. Right? So I started teaching people, traders, millionaires, how to use a computer. Did anyone else start early in teaching people that have never touched a computer? A couple of us, yeah. I got a couple friends out there, right? It's challenging. You're like, oh, you just do this, and they're looking at you like, I do what? They literally thought the little thing was a pop holder or something. You're like, no, that's where we put the floppy drive, right? So what I learned is, as I grew up teaching people how to use software, I realized, believe it or not, those of us in technology, we speak a different language. Have you guys ever felt like you're talking to someone and they just look at you and their eyes glass over and they roll back in their head, right? That is literally teaching. You're talking a language and they don't get it. And here's the thing. Do you know that we have a bad reputation? People think we're geeks and they don't like us. Do you know why they don't like us? Because we make them feel stupid. Did you guys ever think about that? When we're talking to people and we're like, blah, 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 and they're like looking in Google and trying to figure out what the heck you're talking about. When you're talking to executives or end users, we're stressing them out. So I'm going to teach you today how to avoid that and look like a rock star. So what I discovered the truth to be is I need to speak in the language of this person I'm speaking to. Not in my language, and probably not in your language. Like you and I could talk, right? And we could talk geek all day long, but as soon as someone else comes in the room, it changes. How many of you feel stressed out preparing for a presentation? You're at the end of your sprint, you gotta do the presentation part. Do you guys prepare? Some of you are like, no, I don't prepare. By the way, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. Okay? Because the trick to a presentation, a lot of you are like, I know this stuff, I built it, right? But the trick to preparing is not about the actual presentation, it's the influence. It's how you connect with your end user. And the reason why presentation skills are so important is that they increase end user adoption, right? We will get more funding, more interesting work, and by the way, you'll probably get a raise if you provide more interesting work and projects. We will secure that funding. We'll also show the results of our hard work. A lot of us do a lot of cool things and nobody even notices it, so we're gonna highlight that. We're also going to give you an opportunity to look like a rock star. Do you know when a technologist comes up to present, how high do you think the bar is set? What do they expect a technologist to do? The bar is set like this low, right? It's not hard for us to look good in our presentations. And of course, obviously, the Agile method requires a sprint. And also, we need to sell our ideas internally. So myth number one, I hear all the time, well, Heather, I don't have to practice. I know the software. I know what this built. I know this solution. But here's the thing. We need to practice not the actual technology piece, but actually dumbing it down a bit. And I will say that in this crowd, we need to make it so the CFO, a lot of companies, obviously, we all roll up to the CFO. And I'm a true believer, by the way, I'm a finance IT professional, I'm kind of a hybrid, and I present and work with a lot of CFOs. And they actually tell me that they would like Cliff Note version of IT because they don't understand us, right? So what I tell them is I need to understand how to present to that CFO. Because by the way, they have this purse that magically appears when a project is presented to them that they like. Right? It's the magic secret purse that appears. Myth number two is our users don't care and they don't pay attention. Have you ever done a demonstration and they're just like on their phone looking at you like, what's going on, right? They don't care. That's not true. If they're starting to look down, you're probably not talking to them in their language, right? You've overwhelmed them. You started talking geek stuff that they don't understand, so you need to use stories and analogies. The other thing, does anyone ever present to someone with ADD? Do you guys have some executives that are like, oh my God, they're all over the place, right? I'm gonna give you the secret to presenting to people with ADD. You go really fast. If you can match, true story, I had a CFO of a company that I was working with, and they came in and they said, Heather, I need you to present this budget and planning solution and tell them kind of what we've been up to. And I said, well, tell me about the person. I do my recon about the people in the room is what I want to know. Well, don't worry, he's not going to last more than 15 minutes. He's going to get up and he's going to walk out on you. He does it every time. I'm like, tell me more about him. Well, he has this ADD, like he's all over the place. I go, I got this one. I went into that meeting and I'm talking super, super fast. I'm going all over the place. And he stayed for an hour and a half. And after the meeting, the person that organized it said, what the heck just happened? And I said, oh, it was simple. My ADD matched his. And he's very comfortable. Because if you have ADD and someone talks like this, you want to kill them, right? So know your audience. Start to get to pace with them and mirror them. So this is my mom, Susie. She's the one with the white hair. Doesn't she kind of look like her dog here? So Susie, so you got my dad, a high technologist. He was a finance and IT guy, right? And then there's my mom, more artistic than technology, right? And I always say, when you develop anything or present, you need to be able to present to my mom. If Susie can understand it, all your end users can understand it. Have you ever been in a room where someone starts to explain something you don't understand what it is? You're just like, I don't know what they're talking about. How do you feel? You feel stressed out? Kind of feel stupid? More importantly, how do you feel about that person? You don't like them, right? You're like, God, always feel stupid when that person's around. By the way, you are doing that to many of your executives today, and you don't realize you're doing it. They're not taking your meetings, not because they don't like you, it's because how you make them feel. Think about that. I'm going to move on. So how many of you have had software demonstration training or presentation training on presenting technology? Show of hands. I have about 5 hands in the room right now, right? There's not a lot of classes on this, but by the way, this is one of the most important things ever, right? How many of you have been single at some point in your life, right? We've all been single, right? Would you go on a first date and not brush your teeth? I mean, that's what we're doing by not practicing our software demonstrations. We're not putting our best outfit on. Right? We want to look good. We want to shine. So there's some studies out there. What do you fear most, right? So interesting study here. 19% fear public speaking the most. So when you're giving a presentation, everyone in the audience is cheering for you. They want you to win. And as a technologist, they expect very little out of you. So you could just show up with a couple things that I'm going to teach you today, and you can wow them. Okay? 74% of people suffer from speech anxiety. I'm going to teach you a couple things to get around that today. So are you boring your audiences? This is what we're known for in technology. I call it the show up and throw up, right? I'm going to show you every bell and whistle in this application, and you are going to be wowed. Right? Shortly into it, you see the eyes roll back. You see the phone come out. Right? That's not a good sign, guys. Okay. The feature overload. This is pretty common. By the way, most presentations, you want to pick the 3 to 5 key things that you need to show to get the win flag up. I'm from Chicago, so in Chicago, when the Cubs win, we put the win flag up, right? So that's your goal. You're not there to show them every bell and whistle. You're there to get a yes. And by the way, when you start seeing the heads nod and they say, yes, this is awesome, that's about time to shut up. Most of us in technology, what do? Let me show you some more and some more. And what can only go from a yes? A yes doesn't go to a super yes. A yes goes to a no. Or a why didn't you do this? Right? So learn when to stop. A lot of us use a monotone voice because we get scared. Your voice should be like a song. You can use it in different tonalities. And you forget to include the audience. And this is a big one. When you just show up you've noticed I've asked you a lot of questions. I'm engaging you and having you raise your hand. And that's because I know you're going to be part of my conversation. Okay. There's a thing called bounce, and we want to do this. And it's what a bounce is when I say, have you ever? Now you're suddenly thinking of a time where this happened to you. And now my story is part of yours. Use that in every presentation you give. Have you ever had a problem where we couldn't get this information and we were challenged to do that and there was a deadline? And everyone in the room is thinking of that situation. So use that. It's called bounce. You also want to add color to your presentation. And I mean literally color, like get pictures. There's this thing called Pixabay. You can get free pictures. It's license free, and you can add them in. People like pictures, and a lot of text overwhelms a lot of people. So here's the framework for demo success. I believe the most important part is the audience. Okay? You're not there to show them what you built. You're there to show them how you solve a problem. So you need to know your audience. The second part is telling the story. And so you're telling them the story of how problematic life was before the solution, and you're guiding them through life after the solution. Foresee objections. This is a huge one. And what I do when I do presentations is I sit down with our team and I write down everything that the executive or whoever we're presenting to could say as a problem, or something that they could say, why didn't we? And we write it down, and we write down how we're going to handle that. And here's what you do. This is so powerful. Now you might be thinking, but Heather, what if they come up with something I don't know? Okay? Whenever you say you might be thinking and then you address the objection in their head, they're like, oh my goodness, they're thinking exactly what's in my head right now. And it's super powerful. So those are the lines you're going to use. You might be thinking. Practice, practice, practice. I can't tell you how beneficial this will be for your confidence, but more importantly, you're going to look like a rock star, and they're going to start listening to you more, and you're going to get more interesting projects. So let's talk about the audience. What you should be looking at is what their pain is, and there's two types of pain. We have our internal pain and our external pain. And I'm just going to give you an example of this. An internal pain is typically what's really, really the problem, okay? But most people don't know what the real problem is, or they probably would have already solved it. So they have an external pain. And an example of this might be that, the data in our reporting is wrong. So an executive might say, this sucks, we have to do this all by our hands or in Excel because the data coming out of the subsystems are wrong. Right? Now, we know as an organization, maybe the real issue is that you haven't funded a data warehouse. Okay? True story. I was working with a CFO, and he came and saw a business analytics conference and loved the stuff on he wanted dashboards. And he's like, I want that. And I said, well, we can get you that. And then the next day, I called up the CIO, and I'm like, hey, Mike, the CFO wants dashboards. Here's what we're proposing. Do you support this project? And he goes, absolutely not. I said, well, why not? He says, I've been trying to get funding for a data warehouse for 5 years, and every year it gets rejected. I am not giving him a dashboard and having junk data. I said, I totally get it. What if I can get you a data warehouse? He's like, Heather, I've been trying for 5 years. You're not getting me a data warehouse. I go, watch me. Call a meeting. Call a meeting. Go in, CFO sits down, and I scripted this, by the way. It was practiced. And I said to the CIO, have your numbers ready, have your process ready, what you need to be successful. I sat down, showed the dashboards, the CFO was like, that's what I want. He's a very energetic guy. And then I said, by the way, the CIO was a former Russian rocket scientist. So the guy's pretty smart. And I said, okay, so, do you support this? And he goes, no. And the reason, and he explained the objection handling, we can't do that because the data is not in good shape, and I'd be giving you false information, and you can't steer this corporation based on bad data. And the CFO is going, well, how do we solve that? And the CIO says, I need a data warehouse. Well, how much does that cost? The CIO goes, this much, and we can have it done by him. Done. And the CFO goes, okay, let's do that. In 45 minutes, we went, and actually less than 45 minutes, we were able to get him the funding for the data warehouse by talking in the terminology and language and explaining it in the vernacular of the CFO. Literally walked out, the CIO goes, what just happened? I said, you got your warehouse. You owe me a beer. Know the requirements discovery. I'm a big fan of sticky notes. I won't go into the details. I do have videos on this if you're interested in this. But here's the trick to this whole thing is you guys know the answer and how to better your corporations, right? But you got to make it seem like it's their idea. Okay? Sometimes we have to ask questions that we know the answers to just so the person can answer it. And then you're like, oh, so that's what you want me to do. And you validate. Now they think it's their idea, and that's super, super impactful, right? Active listening. How many are active listeners in this room? We got one hand. 2 confident people, actually, right? Here's the deal. We are not biologically wired to be good listeners. That's my theory. And here's why. We are very analytical. We are problem-solving experts, right? So when I say I have a problem, and I give you a few facts, you're like, I got this. The data's over here in SQL, and then I can do this. And you're suddenly solving the problem. And what happens is you don't hear anything else that's said. You just missed it. So I think that we are biologically wired because of our development of our left brain to not be good active listeners. And by the way, some of us seem a little condescending at times. And 23% of males in the United States are missing part of their brain to function properly, to know you're being condescending. Seriously, I study neuroscience for fun, and it's true. So be cognizant of what you're saying and watch the body language. Okay, one trick to that is that you have to see the person's face. Okay. If you're virtual, how many of you have meetings virtually? Zoom, WebEx, right? We all do. How many of you go on camera when you do that? Okay, I saw a lot less hands. Everybody get a good camera, get yourself on camera. Because 93% of all communication is nonverbal. This, although it's not a pretty face, means something, right? When you're doing that frown thing, you're like, oh, I think you have a question. Or should I back up and slow down? Okay, so here's a key too. How many can tell me the strategic goals of your company today? I see a few, not as many hands as I need to see, okay? What's happening in most IT and technology projects that I see is that we're missing a crucial piece, and I teach a lot of business intelligence and analytics classes, and when I survey that, typically, and this crowd is way better than the norm, for less than 4% raise their hands. Every project that you're doing today should be tying to the strategic goals of the company. Somehow, it might be slightly distant, but it's got to help get the company there because that's what the executives need help with. Also, the other thing I recommend is when you're meeting with your users, your executives, whoever, have color crayons or markers and ask them to sketch out their ideas. Whether it's how they think this stuff should flow, how the report should look, have them write it and give them color. One, you're triggering the right side of the brain, the creative side. But when they actually draw it, let's just take a dashboard. If they draw out a dashboard and say, Heather, this is what I want. Now I build that. Do you think I'm going to be successful? They can't say that's not what I wanted. If they do, I whip out their colorful drawing and go, really? Looks the same to me, right? So setting those expectations. So storytelling, everybody remembers story. For history, stories have been the way we tell all the history, right? But yet we do demonstrations instead of telling stories. How many stories have I told today? A lot, right? You've already heard about a lot of my clients because you will remember it. So start to write and think of stories and analogies. When you're doing any presentation, you start with the end. Today, I'm going to teach you how to build more influence. Then, what you're going to do is actually give them the details or show them, and then summarize it with, I just showed you, or here's the problem we solved. Okay? You have to have all three components to be able to be successful. We talked about bounce earlier, using your voice. Analogies are the secret for us to share technology and the advanced concepts to Susie. Right? To teach somebody that doesn't get it. So I was at a CFO, actually I was presenting to a room full of female CFOs yesterday, or 2 days ago in New York. And I asked them about technology, and most of them say, you know, they roll up to me, but I need cliff notes. Like, I don't get it. But here's the secret. They're afraid to admit it to you because that shows weakness. So when you're having these conversations with somebody that can help your projects, have it one-on-one. Don't have it in group setting. And be the person that kind of fills in the gaps for them and makes it easy. When you're doing objection handling, how I recommend that you do that is actually write down what you think you're going to have the objection for. For example, if I was doing business intelligence, the CFO might say, I get the reports I need, I'm good. And then you can say, but wait, do you know the hours it takes? You know, 5 people are spending nights and weekends to get you that reporting package every month because our processes are broken, right? So then you start to give them the actual dollars, the ROI. How many dollars does it cost every month for those 5 people to generate those reports? CFOs always talk in dollars. So start building the ROI. Every presentation should have a call to action at the end of it. I want you to approve this phase of our sprint. Right? I want you to give us funding for this next phase. I need you to make this decision by 2 weeks from now. You need to give them concrete call to actions. So many times I see presentations and people are like, oh, that was great, but nothing happens. Have you ever had that where you have a meeting and you're like, oh, we had this great meeting. A month later, you're like, in the meeting, you're like, yeah, we got nothing done because there was no takeaways, right? And when you do that, you want them to know, you want not only what you expect them to do and who to do it, but by when. It's got to be measurable. And who needs to be involved? If you have to bring other people involved, you need some more end users to do testing or what have you, you need to get that involved. And then validate the next step. So ending every presentation to say, okay guys, from what I hear, here are our 5 steps that are our next steps. And then, by the way, you follow that up with an email. Here are the 5 things we agreed to. Okay? Failure to practice is practicing to fail. We talked about that. Do the time. How many of you record yourself before you do a big presentation? Do a dry run? A couple brave souls, right? The hardest part of that is listening to yourself afterwards. By the way, you hate your voice. It's horrible. Mine's so nasal and Midwestern, right? And go on camera. Looking at a camera, by the way, my laptop is horribly designed. Its camera is way down here, right? So it's got this nostril shot thing going on. Is not a good look on anybody. Right? So make sure when you're going to go on camera, well, you know what I do? I prop my laptop up on a stack of books, and I get that good selfie shot. You know, it gets rid of about 6 chins. Check your background and make sure it's good. Do the dry runs with colleagues. Have them play. If this is an important presentation and it means going to the next phase, practice and do dry runs with colleagues. Maybe have an influencer in the room. Having a wingman is really important. And here's what a wingman is. Have you guys ever presented and then the projector goes down or your laptop freezes or like the internet connection crashes or the server goes down? We've all had that panic attack, like you're like, oh, right? So your wingman stands in the back of the room. And the wingman is supposed to, as soon as life happens up here, they start asking questions. Because what happens if the person in the back room started asking a question right now? You'd all go like this, right? You'd all turn around and look at who's talking. And now I can fix this without everybody in the room watching. Okay? When you're doing it virtually, have a virtual wingman that they can read the room as well. I'm always a big fan. I actually, if you guys email me, I have a demo scorecard. I believe you should always score yourself, and more importantly, have people in the room score you. And just say, I'm trying to improve my presentation skills. Can I give you a scorecard that you'll fill out for me? Okay? You can't get better unless you get some data. So the trick also is confidence, okay? There's this thing called make your move. And I'm going to teach it to you. Normally, I'll make you all do it, but I'm going to spare you today. Make your move is actually messing with your neurochemicals. And what it is if you were playing golf and did a 20-foot shot and you were going to win $1 million and you sunk it, what move would you make? Now, mine is like, yes, right? And when you do that, you're actually triggering your brain chemicals to give you some hits of like very positive energy and confidence building ones. So if you're nervous, you're gonna go present to a room of 100 some people, and you're like, you go somewhere where nobody can see you preferably, and make your move for about a minute. It will literally change your physiology and get you ready to present. You don't want to go like, I'm so scared. I'm going to go up here and present, right? You want to be in like, hello, let's make this happen, right? Okay. Practice, know your story. Have a PowerPoint backup, so screenshots of it, or a recording of your demonstration. I've seen a lot of people do that today, saying, don't do live ones, they're dangerous, right? Sometimes you have to do live, and make sure you assign that wingman. Now, sometimes we have a software demo disaster. I've been here way too many times, and these are lessons I've learned, okay? Don't highlight your mistakes. When you screw something up, don't say, oh my God, I just screwed that up, because half the room didn't even notice that you screwed it up. They don't know what you're gonna say. You skipped a whole section you were supposed to do. Just keep moving, right? Only people that will know were the people that saw your dry run. So don't highlight your mistakes. Everyone's like, oh my God, I totally screwed that up. I'm like, no, stop. And cover the screen if you can. Here, it would be a little hard for me to cover that screen. I think maybe there's a special button on the clicker for that, though. Have that wingman. And if it gets really bad, call a timeout. I've had to do this before. We're like, clearly we're having some issues. Can we take a 5-minute break? okay? They'll respect you for controlling that situation. If you have a PowerPoint or a video of your demonstration instead of live as a backup, they're gonna be like, wow, does that person really handle bad situations or what, right? Also have that video on someone else's laptop. Worst thing is your laptop dies, right? The virtual demo, I'm gonna go through this quickly here. Have a good microphone. Laptop microphones suck. For $100, you can get a really good quality sound. Have you ever been on a demo or a webinar and you can't hear the people? You're like, oh my God, that's so annoying. Right, watch the angle. Lighting, you can just put a couple little light boxes right next to you if you're on camera a lot and make yourself look good, like look confident, right? Watch the background. I've had people, like little naked children run in the background, not at my house, but at other people's houses. You're like, make sure you watch that, right? Okay, I'll give you a demo checklist. When you get funding, here's the big thing. You need to figure out how your project makes or saves the company money. Key ingredient, finance always is where the money comes from. If you speak in their terminology, you will get your projects approved, okay? So if you would like a copy of either my Business Intelligence Bullseye book or my Solving the CIO Identity Crisis, just go to, oops, the color came out funky, and then heatherized.com. Yes, I made my name a verb or a noun. For those of you in Tampa Bay, you'll understand why. There's another Heather Cole. I didn't sleep with Hulk Hogan. Just putting that out there. It wasn't me. So heatherized.com/bonus. And if you want, connect with me. I'd be happy to send you some templates that will be software checklists, everything that you need to do to prepare. It's just hcole@loadstarsolutions.com. And please, if you learn nothing else, practice your demonstrations. That's how you can wow your audience and get the funding that you need. So hopefully today I give you a couple tips to make you more influential in understanding your executives. So if I did, please raise a hand. Let me see it. Okay. Yeah, I got most of the room. So excellent. Thank you very much.